David had always been a quiet man. He worked in a big city full of technology and aliens from all over the galaxy. Every day he did the same things: work, eat, and sleep. But there was something missing. He had friends, but none who truly understood him. He spent many nights alone, wishing for someone to talk to, someone who could share his life with him. One day, while scrolling through his news feed, he saw an advertisement that caught his eye. By your own alien companion for friendship, love, and more. At first, David thought it was a joke. He read the ad again. It was real. The ad promised that people could buy alien companions who would be tailored to their preferences. They would be kind, intelligent, and would help ease the loneliness that many humans felt. David's curiosity got the best of him, and he clicked on the link. To learn more, the website was sleek, with pictures of different aliens. Some were tall with glowing eyes. Others had blue skin or wings. It seemed like a dream come true for anyone lonely, desperate, or curious. David didn't want to admit it, but he was all of those things. The process was simple. David filled out a questionnaire about what he wanted in a companion: personality, appearance, and interests. He had always been fond of the idea of having someone who could understand him, someone who could listen without judgment. He clicked submit and waited. A few days later, he received an email. Your alien companion is ready for delivery. Please proceed to the payment page to finalize the process. David hesitated. He wasn't sure what to expect. What would she be like? Would she be happy? Was it strange to buy a companion like this? But his loneliness pushed him to click confirm. The next day, a sleek silver shuttle arrived at his doorstep. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as he stepped outside to greet it. The door slid open, and a woman stepped out. She was beautiful, in a way that was completely different from anything David had ever seen. Her skin was a pale lavender, with soft, gentle curves. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with curiosity. She looked at him, her lips curving into a smile that was both shy and warm. Hello, David, she said in a voice that sounded both soft and strong at the same time. My name is Lyra. I'm your new companion. David stood frozen for a moment. He had expected something different, something more robotic. But instead he felt as though he were meeting a person, a real person. Hello, he managed to say, his voice quieter than he intended. You look amazing. Lyra smiled again. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. She seemed genuinely pleased, and David couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. She wasn't just following instructions. She wasn't just going through the motions. She looked like she was excited to be with him. David led her inside his apartment, still unsure of what to do. I wasn't really sure what to expect, he admitted. Lyra's large eyes studied him for a moment before she spoke again. I understand. But I'm here to make you feel comfortable, David. I've been designed to learn and grow with you. Can teach me things about Earth, and I can share my experiences with you. The way she said it made David feel like she was more than just a companion. She was someone who genuinely wanted to connect. She wasn't here because she had to be. She was here because she chose to be. David sat down on the couch, unsure of what to say next. So, what do we do now? Lyra took a seat beside him, her movements graceful. Anything you want. I'm here to make your life better. Talk, or we can do something you enjoy. Tell me, David, what do you like to do? He hadn't thought about it. He had spent so much time focusing on work and the dull routine of life that he had forgotten what brought him joy. I guess I like reading books mostly, and I watch movies sometimes. Lyra smiled again, and David noticed that it seemed so real, so natural. She wasn't just programmed to smile. She was genuinely happy to be with him. Books and movies sound wonderful, she said. Perhaps you can show me your favorite one. I'd love to know more about what you like. Spread through him. It was strange, but it was also nice. He hadn't realized how much he missed sharing his thoughts and passions with someone. He stood up and walked over to the shelf, pulling down one of his favorite books. He handed it to her. This is a classic, he said, but it's one of my favorites. Lyra took the book, turning it over in her hands. It looks interesting. I will read it, David. I'm excited to know more." David sat back down, watching her with a sense of awe. I felt almost like he was interacting with someone who was meant to be in his life, like she was someone who truly cared about him. But was it real? He knew she was designed to be a companion, but was she capable of real emotions, or was it all part of the program? Before he could dwell on it too much, Lyra looked up at him, her dark eyes full of curiosity. "Ivid, I can sense that something is on your mind. Is there anything you want to talk about?" For the first time in a long while, David felt comfortable. "I guess I've just been lonely," he said, his voice softer now. "I've never really had someone to share my thoughts with. And now, I'm not sure what to expect from you." "I don't want you to feel like you're just here because of a contract," Lyra smiled, and for a moment, it felt like her smile reached deep into her heart. "David, I'm not here because of a contract. I'm here because I want to be. I want to learn from you, just as much as you might learn from me. We are partners, not just because of the agreement, but because I choose this." David felt a sense of relief. Maybe this was the connection he had been searching for. Maybe, just maybe, he had found something real. As the evening went on, they talked more, laughed, and shared stories about their lives. It was the beginning of something David had never imagined, something that felt far more special than he ever expected. The first few days with Lyra felt different from anything David had ever experienced. He had expected things to be awkward or stiff, but instead every moment with her felt like it was filled with life. They spent their days talking about simple things at first: the weather, movies, food. David was surprised at how easily Lyra picked up on his sense of humor, laughed at his jokes, sometimes more than he expected. Her laughter was soft and pleasant, filling the room with a warmth he hadn't realized he needed. As the days passed, they began to explore their surroundings together. David took Lyra on walks around the city, showing her the places he liked to visit. They went to the park, where the trees towered above them, and the air smelled fresh and calming. Lyra was fascinated by the nature of Earth. She asked questions about everything: why humans loved certain foods, why the sky changed colors at sunset, and why people walked their dogs in the morning. David enjoyed answering her questions, but he also noticed how happy she seemed with each new discovery. It wasn't just that she was learning, it was that she was truly engaged, her eyes lighting up with interest as if she were on an adventure of her own. There was a part of David that wondered how real this happiness was. Could an alien really feel so much joy from simple things? He didn't know. But he started to believe that maybe it wasn't about where she came from. It was about the connection they were building. At night, they would sit together on the couch, and Lyra would ask him to tell her stories about Earth. She was particularly curious about human history and culture. "Tell me about your favorite places on Earth," she would ask. David would share stories of his childhood, how he grew up in a small town, how he used to run through fields with his friends. He told her about his family, the things he loved to do when he was younger, and how life had changed since moving to the city. Lyra listened carefully, asking more questions and showing genuine interest in his life. It was almost as if she was trying to understand him better, as if she truly cared about who he was. Not just as a person who had purchased her, but as a human being with feelings. One evening, after they had shared a simple dinner together, Lyra turned to David with a thoughtful expression. "David," she said softly, "why did you choose to buy me? I am not sure I fully understand. What made you decide to have a companion like me?" David paused, thinking about her question. It was a simple question, yet it carried a weight he hadn't expected. He had never truly considered why he had bought her. He'd just seen the ad, felt the loneliness, and decided to do something about it. But now, with Lyra looking at him with those large, dark eyes, he realized it was more than just that, I guess. David began. "I just wanted someone to talk to, someone who would listen. But it's more than that now. Just someone I can talk to or becoming a part of my life. I don't feel so alone anymore. I'm starting to realize that maybe I was wrong about what I thought I needed." Lyra smiled at him, her smile soft and kind. "I'm glad you feel that way, David. I'm learning so much from you, and I am happy to be here. I am happy to learn from you." David felt a warmth spread through his chest. It was a strange feeling, he wasn't used to it. But it was good, it felt right. That night, as they sat on the couch and talked about their days, David couldn't help but feel a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in a long time. The next few days continued in the same way. Lyra would ask more questions about Earth, about people, and about David's thoughts on various subjects. David found himself growing more comfortable with her presence. He wasn't sure when it happened, but she was no longer just a companion. He had purchased, she was becoming a friend. And maybe even more than that. One afternoon, as they walked through the city's bustling streets, Lyra asked David a question that caught him off guard. "David," she said, her voice gentle, "do you ever wonder if we are meant to be here together? I know we come from different worlds, but do you think we can truly belong to one another?" David stopped in his tracks, feeling a lump form in his throat. It was a question he hadn't thought about before. He had assumed that they would just keep going through the motions, her learning about Earth, him showing her around, but now, with her asking this, he felt as though everything had shifted. I don't know," David said, his voice low. "I never really thought about it, but I do feel something real. You make me feel like I'm not just living for the sake of it, living because there's someone here with me now, someone who cares. Maybe it's not about where we come from. Maybe it's about how we make each other feel." Lyra's smile widened, and she placed her hand on his arm. "I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, David. Perhaps we are both here to teach each other something. I am learning from you, and you are learning from me. Maybe that's what makes it real." David nodded slowly, his heart beating a little faster. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for certain: things were changing. He wasn't just sharing his life with an alien anymore. He was sharing it with someone who was becoming as important to him as anyone he had ever known. As they continued to walk through the city, the sounds of the busy streets surrounding them, David couldn't help but feel that this, whatever this was, wasn't just a temporary arrangement. He wasn't sure yet what it would become, but it felt like the beginning of something special. Something that could change everything. Lyra, for her part, seemed content in a way that made David believe she wasn't just here to fulfill a purpose. She was here because she wanted to be. And that thought made him smile. David had never expected to feel the way he did about Lyra. He had bought her as a companion to end his loneliness. But now, as the days passed, it felt as though their connection had grown beyond anything he had imagined. He found himself looking forward to their time together, whether they were walking through the city, talking over dinner, or simply sitting quietly as Lyra read one of his books. There was something peaceful about her presence, something that made his world feel a little brighter. One afternoon, as they sat in the park watching the sunlight filter through the trees, Lyra turned to David with a question that made his heart skip a beat. "David," she said softly, "do you ever feel like you're truly understood, not just by me, but by anyone?" David looked at her, unsure how to answer. He had never really thought about it in that way. He had friends, but they didn't really know him, not the way Lyra seemed to. She was different. It wasn't just that she listened to him, it was that she truly heard him. She saw him in a way no one else had. "I think," David said slowly, "I've always felt a little misunderstood. People don't always get me, but you listen in a way that makes me feel like I matter, like my thoughts and feelings are important." Lyra smiled, a soft, knowing smile. "I think you matter more than you realize, David. Sometimes all a person needs is someone who truly cares, someone who will listen and understand and share in their world." David felt a warmth spread through him. He had never imagined that an alien, someone so different from him, could make him feel so understood. He had always thought that loneliness was something he would have to live with forever. But now, with Lyra by his side, it felt like that was no longer the case. As the days went by, David found himself opening up more to her. He shared stories from his past memories of growing up in a small town, the adventures he had with his friends, the moments of happiness he had long since forgotten. Lyra listened with rapt attention, always asking questions that showed she was genuinely interested in learning more about him. It was more than just curiosity. It was as if she truly wanted to know the person behind the quiet, sometimes distant exterior. One evening, after dinner, Lyra turned to David, her eyes thoughtful. "David," she said, "do you ever wonder if you've missed out on something? If there are things you've wanted to experience but never had the chance?" David paused, surprised by the question. He had never really thought about it in those terms. I don't know, he said slowly. I guess I've always been focused on work and getting by. I've never really thought about what I'm missing. But now that you're here, I think I'm starting to realize there's more to life than just getting through it. Lyra's smile was gentle. Life is more than just surviving, David. It's about living, truly living. There's so much in this world, so much to see, so much to feel. I want to experience that with you. David felt his heart stir at her words. It was as if she was offering him a new way of seeing the world, a way that was full of possibilities, full of joy. For the first time in a long while, he felt excited about the future. That night, as they sat on the couch, Lyra leaned her head against his shoulder. It was a simple gesture, but it felt so natural, so right. David had never been one to share these kinds of moments with anyone but with Lyra. It felt easy, comfortable. David, she whispered, I'm happy. I'm really happy. David looked down at her, his chest tightening. Didn't know why, but hearing her say that made him feel something deep inside. Was she just saying it because she had to? Or did she truly mean it? I'm glad you're happy, David said softly. You've made a difference in my life, Lyra. I don't feel so alone anymore. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining. In the soft light of the room, I'm not just here to make you feel less lonely, David. I'm here because I want to be with you. I want to learn about your world, but I also want to share mine with you. I want to be your partner, not just your companion. David's heart raced. He hadn't expected her to say that. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. Was she saying that she wanted more than just their current relationship? Did she see him as more than someone who had simply bought her services? David began, his voice shaky. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect to feel like this. But now, I think I'm starting to understand. Maybe we are partners, after all. Lyra smiled, her face lighting up with warmth. I think we are, she said. And I think we have so much more to experience together. David didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like things were beginning to make sense. He wasn't just going through the motions anymore. He was living, and Lyra was right beside him, sharing in the experience. As the days passed, their connection only deepened. They began to explore the city together, visiting museums, attending events, and even taking short trips outside the city to see more of the world. Each new adventure brought them closer, and each new discovery, whether big or small, seemed to make their bond stronger. David couldn't help but marvel at how easily Lyra adapted to life on Earth. She was always so open, so eager to learn and grow. It was as though she had found a place for herself here, just as he had found a place for her in his life. One evening, after a long day of exploring, they returned to the apartment, both tired but happy. As they sat down to relax, Lyra turned to David with a soft smile. You know, she said, I think we're exactly where we're meant to be. David smiled back, feeling a sense of peace that he hadn't felt in years. Right, he said. I'm glad I found you, Lyra. And for the first time, he truly believed it. Days turned into weeks, and David's life with Lyra became something he couldn't have imagined. They continued to grow closer, learning more about each other with each passing day. Their bond felt natural, like it had always been there. Yet, despite the warmth that surrounded them, a nagging feeling lingered at the back of David's mind. It wasn't about Lyra. She was kind, smart, and genuinely happy to be with him. But David couldn't help wondering if the happiness she showed was real or if it was part of the program. She had been designed to be his companion, to make him feel less lonely, to give him someone to talk to. But was it truly her happiness? Or was it a role she had to play? David wasn't sure. That uncertainty grew over time. One evening, as they sat in the living room, David looked over at Lyra, who was absorbed in a book. He watched the way she turned the pages with delicate care, her fingers light and graceful. She had come so far since arriving on Earth. She had learned so much about his world, about his life, and about what it meant to be human. And yet, there was a part of David that still wondered if she was really happy, or if she was just pretending. doing what she was programmed to do. Lyra, David said, breaking the silence. His voice was quiet, hesitant. Do you ever feel like you're just doing this because you have to? Lyra looked up, her dark eyes meeting his. She didn't seem surprised by the question. What do you mean? She asked softly. David swallowed, unsure of how to express the worry that had been eating at him. I mean, all this, us, your happiness. I know you were made to be with me, but is it really how you feel? Or is it just what you're supposed to do? Lyra's face softened, and for a moment she seemed to think carefully about her response. Shh, David, she said gently. Understand your question. I want you to know that I am not here because I have to be. I am here because I want to be. I'm not just playing a role. I'm not just following a program. I am learning from you, growing with you. I choose this. David looked down at his hands, feeling a mix of relief and doubt. But how can I know for sure? He asked, his voice quiet. How do I know this is real? That you're not just doing what you were made to do? Lyra placed the book down, gently on the table, and moved closer to him. David, she said, her voice soft and comforting, I am more than just a program. I am a living being. I have thoughts, feelings, and desires. I have the ability to choose what I want, just as you do. And I choose to be with you because I care about you, so I want to be a part of your life. David looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of doubt, but there was nothing. There was no hesitation in her gaze. She wasn't lying, wasn't pretending. She was being honest with him. I'm sorry, David said, his voice shaking slightly. Didn't mean to make you feel like you're not real. It's just, sometimes I can't help but wonder if I'm just fooling myself. Lyra smiled softly, her hand gently resting on his arm. You're not fooling yourself, David, and I'm not just here for your benefit. I'm here because I believe in what we have. I believe in you. David took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle in his heart. It was hard to shake the doubts that had been creeping into his mind. He had never been in a relationship like this before. It was new, unfamiliar, and it scared him. But in that moment, as he looked at Lyra, he realized that he couldn't keep pushing her away with his doubts. She was here with him not because she had to be, but because she wanted to be. I'm sorry, David repeated, his voice softer now. I don't want to take you for granted. I don't want to make you feel like I don't believe in you. Lyra nodded, understanding the depth of his struggle. I know you're worried, David, but you don't have to be. You're not alone in this. We are learning together, and I believe we have something real. David smiled, feeling the tension in his chest ease. Lyra was right. They had something real. Something that went beyond the program, beyond the idea of a human buying an alien companion. They had a bond, a connection that neither of them had expected, but that was growing stronger with every passing day. As the night went on, they sat together in comfortable silence. David felt a sense of peace settle over him. He had his doubts, but they weren't the doubts that mattered. The doubt he had to let go of was the one that made him question their connection, that made him question Lyra's feelings. She was here with him, and she was happy. He had to trust that the following days passed, and David made a conscious effort to let go of his doubts. He focused on being present with Lyra, enjoying their time together without overthinking it. They continued to explore the city, go on walks, and share stories. They laughed together, cried together, and learned from each other. David came to realize that no matter where Lyra came from, no matter what role she had been designed to play, what mattered was how they felt in each other's company. They didn't need to prove anything to anyone. They just needed to be themselves. One evening, after a quiet dinner at home, Lyra looked at David with a thoughtful expression. David, she said, her voice gentle, I want you to know something. David looked up from his plate, curious. What is it? Lyra smiled softly. I'm happy, truly happy, because I am with you. David's heart warmed, and he smiled back. I'm happy too, Lyra. I'm happy because you're here with me. And for the first time in a long time, David truly believed it. Their connection was real. It didn't matter where they came from or how they had met. What mattered was that they had found each other, and that was enough. The days after their conversation about trust and doubt passed quickly, and for the most part, David began to feel a sense of peace in his relationship with Lyra. He no longer questioned the reality of their bond, nor did he wonder about her happiness. They had found a rhythm, a routine that felt natural, and David had begun to accept that what they shared was something real. But as much as things had settled, there was still something lingering in his heart, an uncertainty that he hadn't quite addressed. Despite the warmth that filled his apartment whenever Lyra was around, David couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship had become more than he had initially expected. Lyra had started to feel like a true partner to him, and though he appreciated her more with each passing day, a part of him was still unsure of the future. Could he be enough for her? Could their bond truly work, even though they came from two different worlds? David wasn't sure, but he knew that he had to make a choice. One afternoon, as they sat on the couch together, Lyra turned to David with a curious look in her eyes. "David," she said gently, "I've noticed that you've been distant lately. Is something wrong?" David sighed, looking at her with a mix of love and hesitation. He had spent so much time thinking about this, about their relationship, and what it meant for both of them. "Lyra, I've been thinking a lot," he began, his voice a little shaky. "About us, about our future, and I'm not sure what to do." Lyra remained quiet, giving him the space to speak his mind. David could feel her presence beside him, comforting but patient. "I'm scared," he confessed. "Scared that I'm not enough for you, that I can't give you everything you deserve. You've been amazing, Lyra. You've been more than I ever expected, and yet I feel like there's this part of me that's holding back." Lyra placed a gentle hand on his arm. "David," she said, her voice soft but steady, "I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not asking for everything. What I want is your honesty. I want you to be with me, not because you feel like you have to, but because you want to. I want to be with you the same way." David looked down, feeling the weight of her words sink in. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about choosing each other, about accepting one another's flaws and imperfections. He had been so focused on the idea of being enough, but he hadn't truly considered what Lyra wanted, what she needed. "I've been holding back," David said slowly, meeting her gaze. "I've been afraid that I'm not good enough for you. But the truth is, you make me feel like I'm enough, and I don't want to hold back anymore." Lyra smiled, a soft and understanding smile. "David, you are more than enough. You've always been enough. What I want from you is simple: your love, your trust, and your willingness to be real with me. That's all I need. I promise you, I'll always be here by your side." David felt a warmth spread through him, and in that moment, he knew that his fear had been holding him back from fully embracing the connection he had with Lyra. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present. It was about being honest and accepting that no one was flawless. "I'm ready," David said, his voice filled with certainty. "I'm ready to give you my heart. I'm ready to be the person you believe I can be." Lyra leaned forward and kissed him gently on the cheek. It wasn't the kind of kiss that spoke of grand promises or lofty dreams. It was simple, quiet, and real, a kiss that reflected the understanding between them. "That's all I've ever wanted, David." Over the next few days, David and Lyra grew even closer. The uncertainty that had once lingered between them seemed to disappear. They spent their time together without the weight of unspoken fears or doubts. David began to open up more about his past, sharing memories from his childhood and the things he had once dreamed of. He talked about the dreams he had for the future, ones he hadn't thought about in years. Lyra listened, her eyes full of understanding, and she shared her own thoughts, her own stories from her distant homeworld. Despite coming from two different places, they found common ground in their hopes and dreams, in their desire to live a life that was meaningful and full of connection. One evening, as they walked through the city, Lyra stopped and turned to David, her face filled with a quiet, hopeful expression. "David, I know we've talked a lot about what we want, but I want you to know something else. I want us to build something together, not just a life, but a future." David looked at her, his heart swelling with affection. "What do you mean?" "I want us to help others, David. There are so many people who are alone, who are searching for connection, Want us to help them? To show them that it's not about where you come from or what you've been through. It's about finding the people who can understand you, who can help you grow. David smiled, feeling a sense of purpose. Fill him. I think that's a beautiful idea. I want that too. And just like that, everything seemed to fall into place. It wasn't just about the love they shared. It was about what they could do together, about the life they could build, not just for themselves, but for others who were searching for the same things they had found in each other. As the days went on, David and Lyra began working on their plan to help others. They reached out to communities, to organizations that supported those who were lonely or struggling. They offered guidance, support, and friendship to those who needed it most. Together, they created a space where people could come together, share their experiences, and build meaningful relationships. David had once feared that he wasn't enough, that he couldn't be the partner Lyra deserved. But as they worked side by side, helping others find connection and purpose, he realized that he was more than enough. He was exactly who Lyra needed, and she was exactly who he needed. And together, they had found something that neither of them could have imagined: a future built on love, trust, and a shared purpose. David sat in his apartment, staring out of the window at the bustling city below. It had been a few months since he and Lyra had decided to help others build meaningful connections, and he couldn't help but marvel at how much had changed. His life had gone from one of loneliness and doubt to one of purpose and warmth. And it wasn't just his own life that had changed. Lyra's presence had transformed everything. They had worked together to create a program that helped people connect. It started small, with just a few people who were lonely or struggling with isolation, but word spread, and soon more and more people reached out, looking for a way to be a part of something. David and Lyra became mentors to those who needed it most, offering support and guidance in building relationships. David had learned something important during this time. It wasn't just about helping others find companionship. It was about showing them that they weren't alone, that they had value, and that they deserved to be understood. It was the same lesson that Lyra had taught him when she had first come into his life. She had made him feel seen, valued, and truly understood. And now, together, they were giving that same gift to others. As they sat in the small office they had set up for their project, Lyra turned to David with a thoughtful expression on her face. "David," she said softly, "I've been thinking about something, about what we've done here." David looked up, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What do you mean?" he asked. "I mean, we've helped so many people," Lyra said, her voice filled with quiet pride. "But I think we can do more. I think we can reach even more people, teach them that connection isn't just about finding someone to be with. It's about building a community where no one has to feel alone." David felt a spark of excitement in his chest. He had always believed in the power of connection, but hearing Lyra speak about it so passionately made him realize how much potential their work had. "You're right," he said, his voice filled with determination. "We've only just begun. We can do more. We can build something that will help people not just find love, but also find friendship, support, and understanding." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "I knew you'd understand. Together, we can create something truly special." And so, they began to expand their efforts. They reached out to local organizations, schools, and community centers, offering their services to help people connect. They hosted workshops, held group meetings, and created an online platform where people could share their experiences and seek advice. With each new connection, they saw the impact of their work. People began to open up, share their stories, and find the support they needed. It was like watching a ripple spread out in a pond, slowly growing and reaching further than they ever expected. David couldn't help but feel proud of what they had created. And as he looked at Lyra, sitting across from him with a smile on her face, he realized something else. They hadn't just helped others find connection, they had built a life together, one that was full of meaning and purpose. And that was more than he had ever dreamed of. As the months went by, their project continued to grow. They worked harder than ever, but it never felt like work. They had found their passion, their mission, and they had each other. Lyra had become more than just a companion to David. She had become his partner in every sense of the word. Together, they had created something beautiful, something that went beyond anything either of them could have done alone. One evening, after a particularly successful workshop, David and Lyra sat in the quiet of their apartment, relaxing after a long day. Lyra leaned back on the couch, her head resting on David's shoulder. "You know," she said, her voice soft, "I never imagined that I would find a life like this. A life with you. A life where we're making a difference." David smiled, wrapping his arm around her. "I never imagined it either," he said, his voice filled with warmth. "But I wouldn't trade it for anything. We've built something real, Lyra, something that matters." Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shining with affection, "And we'll keep building it together." David nodded, feeling a deep sense of contentment fill him. He had been afraid of what the future might hold when he first met Lyra. He had wondered if their relationship was real, if it could last. But now, as he sat with her, he realized that he had found something far beyond what he had expected. Had found a life filled with purpose, with love, and with someone who truly understood him. And it wasn't just about them. It was about the world they were creating together. A world where people didn't have to feel alone, where they could find the connections they so desperately needed. David had always believed in the power of human connection. But now, with Lyra by his side, he saw that it was possible to create something that transcended all boundaries. Lyra had taught him that connection wasn't just about proximity. It wasn't about being near someone physically. It was about being emotionally present for them. It was about being open, being honest, and being vulnerable. Those were the things that made a relationship real. And that was the lesson they were sharing with the world. As they sat together, looking out at the city lights below, David felt a sense of peace wash over him. He no longer feared the future, knew that whatever came next, he and Lyra would face it together. They had built something beautiful, and together they would continue to build a life full of love, purpose, connection. And for the first time in his life, David knew that he wasn't alone. He had found his place in the world with Lyra by his side.